kept notes. I mentioned that I will give you a list time to time in reference to some of the things I'm trying to get over to those who are concerned about the end times. One of the things that I talk about all the time is that Christ, part of his mission, part of his job description, what God gave him, that he would preach to the dead. Not all the dead, specifically the dead that died during the flood. And when he came to this earth and he lived here for 33 years when he was crucified, he was on the next point from crucifixion to death is the pit. Everybody went down there. So Christ went down there and preached to the people before the flood, where there was only 8 souls that were saved. He preached to them. Now the scriptures was 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 4 to 6. That's 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 4 to 6. Now that Christ has come, there is a dividing of 2 places. One for those who don't repent, and one for those who do repent. One place is the pit, and the other place is the place that Christ prepared for all those who repented. He called it paradise when he was on the cross. He told the guy to his right, I believe, that this day you will be in paradise with me. So that's the new place. So if you do God's will, you will not go to the pit. It's important to know that the scriptures cannot be interpreted by the person who's reading it from their own knowledge and their own wisdom. They cannot make up an interpretation. The interpretation is in the scriptures someplace. You got to find where it is. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 20. Read that. It's saying that there's no private interpretation of the scriptures. Read it. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 20. Peter also is saying concerning the angels that fell from heaven, the war that I was telling you about in some of my presentations, that some of them were cast down to hell and delivered into chains of darkness, reserved unto the judgment. So some of them was put down in the pit in hell. These are the angels that in Revelation chapter 12, when it said there was war in heaven, the angels and Satan, a large group of them, 1/3 of the angels, without number, you can't count them, came down to earth and the seas. I mentioned this a lot of times concerning Peter. This is also 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. And this is talking about the even and morning day, and comparing to the night and day for the sun and the moon and the stars, which was made on the 4th day. The even and morning day was made on the 1st day. And it says, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. That's 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. A day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. This is the difference between the 1st day and the 4th day. Also Peter. Now don't forget, Peter lived with Christ for 3 years. He was very close to Christ. Christ told him these things. Remember, there's no private interpretation of the scripture. Christ knew where all the scriptures are and told Peter about these things. And here goes another thing that Christ told Peter. When the flood came, the Father only destroyed the people by water. But he kept in reserve the rest of the heavens and the earth that we know of now, that is in the dark side of the creation, for the day of judgment because of the ungodly people. And this is why the book of Revelation is there, to explain what he's going to do this time when he makes a destruction of everything. And that's in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Read that. I keep mentioning Peter because he's very close to Jesus. All the apostles were. So Peter is speaking these things. Sometimes hard to believe, but Peter knows they are true. They come from Christ. And he told him. And what he remembered what Christ told him, he definitely let us know. He's talking about the earth being destroyed, the heaven burnt up. That is in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10 through 18. Verse 10 through 18. He's telling you about the destruction of the heaven and the earth. And then he tells you going to be a new heaven and new earth. Christ told him these things. That's 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10 through 18. Now we get to Isaiah the prophet. He was during the time right after Israel was taken away into captivity. They was taken to Assyria. And that would be Iraq, our Iraq today, but that was called back in those days Assyria. And this before, 100 and some years before, Judah and Jerusalem was taken away by Nebuchadnezzar to Babylon. So Isaiah, that's just a short history about Isaiah. But I have mentioned in my presentation that the earth will be moved out of its space. It says so in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 13. The Father is going to shake the heaven, and the earth will be moved out of its space. And there's a lot to say about that, but you'll find that in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 13. Now we come to the Apostle Paul. He was called after the fact. After Christ had risen from the dead, Paul was walking down a road going to Antioch. And a big light hit him, and he heard Christ say to him, spoke words to him. And Paul became a follower of Christ after that event. I'm going to tell you the whole event. But Paul now is letting us know something. In Thessalonians, he's writing to the Thessalonians. That'll be 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 to 18. And what he's talking about is a concern of the people that they that are in the grave will not be remembered when resurrection comes. So Paul is making them be assured that they're going to be the first ones to rise from the dead, and then the people who are still alive are going to be caught up into heaven. And that would be 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 to 18. It was a big concern back in those days. That'd be 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 to 18. And finally, we're going to talk about Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 11 to 14. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 11 through 14. This is the resurrection. This is how it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It tells you the fathers are going to take them out their graves and take them back to Israel. Read this. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 11 through 14. Now, these are just a list. I'll be giving the list similar to this time to time. I'll just show you how I did it. I want you to check those scriptures out. I'm going to be talking about these over and over, mixing it up with other scriptures that give proof to all that I'm saying. I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Where to go?